Subject pronoun helpful tips. Okay, so I have a few helpful tips here. The first one is, although I is always capitalized in English, io is not capitalized in Italian unless it's the first word of a sentence, just like in English. For example, I have a book. Io ho un libro. So in this case, io is capitalized because it is the first letter of the sentence. You and I are going to the park. Tu ed io andiamo al parco. So in this case, because io is not the first word in the sentence, it is not capitalized. Okay? And you may have noticed that I used a D here, if you're familiar with Italian at all. So I'll just explain real quick here. The letter D may be added to E, meaning and, okay, or A in Italian, becoming id, when the next word starts with a vowel, in order to help separate the two words, especially when speaking. This also applies to a, meaning at or to, becoming ad. So the reason that they do it is because if you don't put the D in here, you'd say tu e io andiamo al parco, and it just becomes a little bit of a mouthful. So it's not required that you add the D, but it is very helpful, and I think it's very useful, especially when you're speaking. But it still means the same thing. It still means and. Okay. All right. Lei and loro are usually capitalized when written, since they signify formal pronouns. However, lei and loro are not capitalized because they mean she and they respectively. Okay, so if it is not capitalized, it'll mean lei means she and loro means they. Okay, if it is capitalized, it means that that's the formal tense. Okay, so lei means she, but lei capitalized means you in the formal singular. Likewise, loro means they, but loro capitalized means you in the formal plural. But like we just said in the last slide, is that you're not generally going to be using this unless you're dealing with a lot of formal language. Okay, so it shouldn't be that confusing. Unlike in English, in Italian, subject pronouns are generally not necessary. This is because once the verb is conjugated, its ending usually tells us who's doing the action. For example, parlo alla ragazza is I talk to the girl. Okay, you can tell because parlo ends in an O. We'll discuss that a little bit further in the next module. Okay, and just another example, parli alla ragazza is you talk to the girl. You could tell because of the ending. But in this case, lui parla alla ragazza, he talks to the girl. You would probably want to leave the lui in here because this can mean he or she or you informal. Okay, so in that instance, you'd probably want to leave the subject pronoun in just for clarification. All right, we have some more helpful tips continued here. So the subject pronoun is retained for clarity or emphasis. However, it is not usually necessary since context will usually help you determine who the subject is. Okay, so another example, we would leave it in for clarity because as we just talked about in the last example, if you're saying she talks to the girl, lei parla alla ragazza, or he talks to the girl, lui parla alla ragazza. If you leave out the pronouns, it's the exact same sentence. Okay, so parla alla ragazza, parla alla ragazza. So in this case, you probably want to leave them in just for clarity. And then for emphasis, I'm going out. What are you doing? Io esco. Tu che fai? Okay, so we're emphasizing the I and you in this case. So in this case, you would leave them in. Lei can mean she or you in the formal singular. You can only tell which is which based on context or if it is capitalized when written. Okay, so she talks to the girl. Lei parla alla ragazza. You, formal, talk to the girl. Lei parla alla ragazza. Okay, do you see any difference? No, you shouldn't because there is no difference. Okay, and then we have how is she? Come sta lei? Or how are you? Come sta lei? So you can tell the difference when it's written out because it's usually capitalized. But if you're just speaking, you have to rely on context. Okay, so you'd have to kind of know if they're talking to you or if they're talking about a girl. Okay, and you can generally move subject pronouns around and they'll still be correct. So that's a little bit different from English. So in this case, how are you? In the informal, you would say come stai tu? Or you can say tu come stai? Or you could say come stai and just take out the two altogether. They all mean the same thing. Another example, he is going out at 7. Esce lui alle 7. You can also say lui esce alle 7. Or alle 7 lui esce. And finally, esce alle 7. And you just can take out the lui altogether. Okay, so all of these are correct, and you see how you can put it there, or there, or there, or you can leave it out. And so it's a lot more flexible than in English. So it makes it a little bit more confusing for beginners, but once you learn it, it becomes easier because you don't have to worry so much about getting the word order correct.